invited three panelists, especially I would like to invite the patron of the Servants of the Buddha organization, Venerable Jnanasiha Thero from Vajraramaya, and also then we go to the respectable diplomat and consul general, and also the former monk for 16 years, Dr. Paitun Sankau from Thailand, and my friend Dr. George Cook. Especially, we learn from them that Venerable Jnanasiha Thero has been working for the Buddha, Servants of the Buddha organization to promote it, and also he's a well-known scholar. And also Dr. Paitun and also George Cook. They all are, I think, highly qualified to discuss this topic. Then the role of each panelist is that Venerable Vajrarami Jnanasiha Thero will speak on the historical perspective of the visit of Upali Thero to Sri Lanka, and also then Dr. Paitun Sankau, the Consul General, will talk about Thailand perspective, and Dr. George Cook will talk about Sri Lankan perspective. And after that, again, Venerable Jnanasiha Thero will talk about the impact of Pali Thero on the Sri Lankan Sangha. First of all, I would like to invite Venerable Vajrarami Jnanasiha Thero to open the panel discussion with his delivering on historical perspective.
Thank you very much, sir. I have 7 minutes, and within the 7 minutes, I'll try to give some. I will be taking this under 3 major areas, or introducing. The Upasampada in Thailand was the Sinhala Sangha tradition. That's one aspect I'll be taking on. And the decay and deterioration of the Buddha Sasana under colonial rule, that is, and then finally the close relationship or friendly relationship between the two kingdoms of Sri Lanka and Ayutthaya, and also the historical context of that. So the first is the Upasampada. It's actually when Upali brought the Upasampada from Thailand to Sri Lanka, as is mentioned in that 1753. But the important thing is that what was there in Thailand was the Sinhala tradition, Sinhala Upasampada tradition. There's a very close relationship between Sri Lanka and Thailand from the time of the kingdom of Sukhothai. And when the kingdom of Sukhothai expanded right down to Nakhon Si Thammarat, that's down south, and there was a Venerable Thero from Sri Lanka, it's a Mahasami, Maha Thero, and he was taken to Sukhothai, and then it was accepted. The Sinhala tradition was accepted, and we see in the Sima or the boundaries that the Sinhala Sima that in Thailand, I've seen this, and in the time of King of Ayutthaya in 1423, there's a very interesting thing that happened. There was a mission from Thailand to Sri Lanka, and then that was during the reign of King Parakrama VI, one of the great kings of Sri Lanka, who united the whole of Sri Lanka. 39 monks from Chiang Mai 25 of them, Cambodia 8, and Ramanujadesha 6 monks. They received high ordination from a chapter led by Sangaraja Vanaratana in a Sima on rafts on the Kalyana River. So Udaka Sima Upasampada as the Kalyani River. And it's interesting that after that, two senior Sihara Sangha monks, his names are given as Mahavikam Bahu and Maha Uttama Panya, accompanied the 39 monks on their return. They were received with great honor by the king of Ayutthaya, and under them conferred Upasampada on two Mahatheras named Sudamma Kovida and Sila Visuddhi. From there, they went, it's mentioned from there, from Ayutthaya, they went to the other places, important centers, like Sachanalai, Sukhothai, Haripuncha, Chiang Mai, throughout, and then they established the Sihara tradition, Upasampada tradition was established and accepted. So there is no doubt, dispute, whatever, that the Upasampada in Thailand at that time was the Sihara Sangha tradition, and that was brought back to Sri Lanka. So that was in 1423, but it happened after that. Say 1505, we had the Portuguese who came to Sri Lanka. So we get the decay and deterioration of the Buddha Sasana under colonial rule. Unlike Thailand, we had 150 years of Portuguese rule, and then another 150 years of Dutch rule, and another 150 years of British rule. So from 1505 till 1948, we were under the Britishers, we were under the Portuguese, the Dutch, and the British. And just I want to quote with regard to the Portuguese period, there is a very interesting history written by a Jesuit father, Father Queiroz. Father Queiroz is in 6 volumes. It was all and translated into English by another Jesuit monk, Father Che Pereira. And I'm just quoting, not to bring about hate, but just to mention what the type of problems or the type of our people had to face during that period. And I just quote. He says is a translation from Father Jesuit. There was a general who forced the mothers to throw their children into mortars and pound them like spicy with pestles, without being moved to compassion by the cries and moaning of the children at each blow, or pitying the mothers forced to be the executioners of their own children and their own hearts. In reward to these labors, when they have reduced them to paste, he ordered them to be beheaded as if they have not observed them, the orders. So this quote is only to indicate the gross human violations inflicted to instill fear in the minds of the people by the Portuguese. And we all know about the infamous Inquisition that is not only in Sri Lanka, in other parts of the countries, also in European countries, we know of the Inquisition. So that was a period, 1505 to that whole century, we have quite a problems. We had this type of the Portuguese come in with a Bible in one hand and the sword in the other. So that's mentioned. Bible in one hand and the sword in the other. They are trying to convert the people. And we know then there were the 3 kingdoms in the Dharmapala. Effigy was taken to Portuguese in Lisbon, and he was baptized, and the whole thing that the Portuguese wanted to capture and be in Sri Lanka, and propagate Catholicism. And that's one aspect. But another aspect is that we had a very unfortunate thing. There is a king of Sri Lanka, Raj Singh I. He was a patricide, and he killed his father, Mayadunna, and then he wanted expiation from from the Bhikkhu Sangha. And the Bhikkhu Sangha said, no, the thing is karma, karma, it's a patricidal, committed patricide. It's not possible for us to expiate you. And then he became furious, against the Bhikkhu Sangha. And that's another aspect that we have to think of, the fury of the Buddhism, because he was not condoned by the Bhikkhu Sangha. And then the destruction of temples and the burning of books, and monks had to flee from the maritime areas to the kingdom, to the central region. And it's fortunate at that time we had the Kandyan kingdom started by Vimaladharma Surya, and that's because of that, another kingdom that's after the Kota kingdom, we have the Kandyan kingdom under Vimaladharma Surya. There was the monks there was who fled to get their refuge as refugees to the central region. So Buddhism, always in Buddhism, we see that there is a royal patronage, and with the royal patronage, Buddhism has thrived. And during this period, there was no royal patronage, there was animosity, and also that there was another forces that are coming, the imperial and the colonial forces. And so there's a second aspect that we have too, as in the historical context. And the other aspect that we have, I like to mention in historical, is the very friendly relation between the two kingdoms of Sri Lanka and Ayutthaya. And it's very friendly because although Venerable Upali came because of a letter that was taken by King Kirti Rajasingha. He was the king of Kandy, and he was a Nayaka king that is coming from South India, and he wanted to get and maybe that his support to Buddhism was maybe to win the hearts of the Sinhala people, but he did everything that was possible to win the hearts, and it's important. And it's in the third year of his reign. He had 35 years, and in the third year that this Venerable Upali came to Sri Lanka. And because of a letter that was sent from the king to the king of Ayutthaya or king of Thailand at the instance of Venerable Saranankara Thero. So Venerable Saranankara is also a very key figure, and he was a very erudite monk, but there was no Upasampada for all. Because of that, what happened was there was no Upasampada, no higher ordination, and then it was a very pitiable state of Buddhism in this country. So it is in this context that the people that this was sent, and the Kandyan ruler, and now we'll listen more from the other side, possibly from the Thai side, what happened there. I have been to Ayutthaya, I have been in Thailand for a long time, and I have visited all these places, yes.
Venerable sir, thank you very much for your nice reflection about visit of Upali Thero to Sri Lanka and the historical perspective. And then I would like to invite Consular General Dr. Paitun Sankau to expose about the Thailand perspective about this visit of Most Venerable Upali Thero to Sri Lanka.
So, good afternoon, and thank you, Venerable Dr. Panya Loka Thero. I would like to share the screen, and I have requested, please. Okay. You are sharing the screen. Okay. And then 1 minute. Okay. Stop share. Okay, share the screen. Okay. Okay. And thank you, Dr. Nakala Panya Loka Thero, for your kind words and congratulations on your excellent moderation. I also extend my respect to Venerable Sri Janasiha Thero, the patron of the Servant of the Buddha organization, and Professor Manori Senanayake, President of the Servant of the Buddha organization. My appreciation also goes to Dr. George Cook for successfully organizing this seminar. And a warm good afternoon to all my Dhamma brothers and sisters. At the outset, I would like to mention that my speech draws from three primary sources of reference. First, I have consulted Thai books in English, such as Venerable Upali Thero, The Jewel of Siam Vamsa by Maha Chulalongkorn Rajavitayalai University, and Thai book The Establishment of the Siamese Sangha in Sri Lanka by Prince Damlong Rachanupap, and Thai article The Lanka Vangsa in Siam and Siam Vangsa in Sri Lanka by Associate Professor Somboon Bunyarit. Additionally, I have consulted the Sri Lankan reference Dictionary of Pali proper name by G.P. Malala Sekera, and have also utilized online resources. For example, I explore the rank of Upali in monastic administration to delve into the significance of Venerable Upali in Thailand. Furthermore, I have employed artificial intelligence tools. It's worth noting that the term AI is particularly fitting for today's seminar, as the Awarelock initiative itself is abbreviated as AI. My speech will focus on 5 topics. A broad overview to grasp the meaning of the context, and who was Venerable Upali Maha Thero, how significant is his role, where did he live, and his journey from Thailand to Sri Lanka. I would like to say this first, that the Buddhist relations between Thailand and Sri Lanka began in early 1200s, as mentioned by Venerable Jana of Panyaloka. When the Theravada Buddhism from Sri Lanka came to Thailand and established itself firmly in Nakhon Si Thammarat. But now we are focusing on another significant event, a shared story between Thailand and Sri Lanka. This event unfolded between 1750 and 1753. At that time, Sri Lanka was known as the Kandy Kingdom and Thailand the Ayutthaya Kingdom. The coastal area of the Kandy Kingdom were under Dutch control, with the primary port city located in Kutinamali, now known as Trincomalee. The King Kirati Sriracha Singha ruled the Kandy Kingdom, while King Boromakot ruled Ayutthaya. At the request of the Kandy King, the Ayutthaya King dispatched a Buddhist envoy led by Venerable Upali Maha Thero in the early 1750s. Venerable Upali Maha Thero held a senior position within Thailand monastic community. During the Ayutthaya period, about 3,000 years ago, Upali signified a significant rank and title within temple administration. According to the Thai article, Rank of Upali in Thailand Monastic Administration, Upali or Pra Upali represented a high rank just below the second level of พระพุทธโฆษาจาริยะ with สมเด็จพระสังฆราชา or Supreme Patriarch at the apex of the monastic hierarchy. To grasp the significance of Venerable Upali Thera in Thailand, we need to understand the broader meaning of Upali within the Buddhist tradition. In the time of the Buddha, Upali Thero, a prominent disciple from the Sakya kingdom, was renowned as a foremost expert in the Vinaya. His pivotal role in the first Buddhist council established the guidelines for Vinaya observance, a legacy still cherished by Theravada Buddhists today. In contemporary Thailand, the term Upali is in a monastic rank and file denoted a high quality of senior monks, and the term Upali here is a monastic title, is not the real name of Venerable Upali because his real name not known. Venerable Upali Maha Thero resides as the abbot of Thammarama Temple, which is situated along the bank of the Chao Phraya River. And Lankan emissaries meet Siamese delegation here at this temple also. Today, the temple boasts a row of an ancient Uposatha hall, a Lankan style Jetiya and a Vihara. Additionally, the temple features a dedicated museum honoring Venerable Upali Maha Thero with a Sala Lanka tree standing nearby. Venerable Upali Maha Thero was not only a deeply knowledgeable scholar of the Buddha's teachings, but also likely excelled in monastic governance. This is evidenced by his leadership as the abbot of Thammarama Temple and his prominent position within the country's monastic hierarchy. According to the history of Thailand monastic ranks and titles, Thailand's current monastic structure includes 11 classes. The classes in question are the classes number 1 to number 3 and number 7. The Upali class possibly falls into either class number 3 or class number 7. No one knows for sure, unfortunately. However, it's noteworthy that he might not have been an expert in meditation practice. This gap in expertise led to the king of Ayutthaya dispatching the second Buddhist mission to Sri Lanka in 1756, aiming to propagate and establish the tradition of meditation practice there. Leading this mission was Phra Visuddhachan, an authority in Buddhist meditation. Look at the picture here, the same tradition between Sri Lanka and Thailand. On the left, the late King Bhumibol Adulyadej the Great, bestowing a monastic rank and title fan upon a very senior monk in the Uposatha hall of the Emerald Buddha Temple in Thailand. And on the right is a Sri Lanka king bestowing a monastic fan to a very senior monk as well. This journey from Thailand to Sri Lanka, or I call it as a Candy Ayutthaya collaboration project. So let's delve into this event. So Upali Maha Thero was sent to Sri Lanka to revitalize Buddhism. This project, which culminated in the journey of Venerable Upali Maha Thero, in my opinion, marked a significant moment in the history of the establishment of Siamese Vangsa or Siamese Sangha in Sri Lanka. On 12 July 1750, King Kirati Sri Raja Singha dispatched emissary from the Kandy kingdom to the kingdom of Ayutthaya. They embarked on the sea route from Kuti Namari via Jakarta and arrived at the mouth of the Japraya River of the Ayutthaya kingdom in 14 May 1751. On 17 July 1751, King Boromakot of the Ayutthaya kingdom received the emissary at his magnificent Sanpet Prasad throne hall, and this throne hall was usually used to receive very prominent heads of the state. And on this is the ruins of Sanpet Prasad throne hall, and on the right here is the replica of Sanpet Prasad throne hall, which is in ancient city in Samut Prakan. So it shows its magnificence here. And here, look at the map of the Ayutthaya city. You will see the location of Kamarama temple on the left here.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Dr. Paitun. Could you
Yes.
summarize?
To summarize, right? Thank you very much.
Yes.
Okay, and you will see. Okay, 1 minute. Okay, and here, and while in Ayutthaya, the Sri Lankan emissary also visited two important temples. The first temple is Puththaisawan temple, where Buddha Kosacharya lived, and the second temple he visited Wat Mahathatu or Mahathatu temple, where they presented the royal letter from the Kandy king to Sangharaja. At that time, Sangharaja assured them of his full support. And after that, the Sangha Council, headed by Sangharaja, suggested the name of Venerable Upali Maha Thero to the king, and the king nominated Upali Maha Thero to lead a delegation to Sri Lanka. And at this time, the mission of Upali Maha Thero first left Ayutthaya in the second month of 1751. But unfortunately, the mission encountered difficulty at Nakhon Si Thammarat and has to return to Ayutthaya. But King Boromakot persisted. He sent the same mission again to Sri Lanka. At this time, Venerable Upali took a sea route from Ayutthaya via Jakarta here and arrived at Tringomali on around July of 1751 or 53. So the trip took over 3,500 kilometers. So in conclusion, and after that, the Thai mission arrived at Kandy. The king of Kandy welcomed them and invited them to stay at Manvatta Maha Vihara, where Samarera Saranankara was the abbot. So, in conclusion, I would like to say that the Buddhist relations between Sri Lanka and Thailand, which began early 1200, flourished and was strengthened by the visit of Venerable Upali Maha Thera in 1753, and this relationship has flourished since then more than 2,270 years. So at this time, I would like to thank the Avalok Initiative and the servant of the Buddha organization for organizing this webinar, a positive step towards strengthening Buddhist relations between our two countries. And I would like to conclude my presentation here, having fulfilled the task assigned by Dr. George Cook. Thank you very, very much for your attention. Okay.
Oh, really enlightening presentation. Very, very deep as well as wonderful presentation. I think we should discuss it in detail in the next session after the floor is open. Thank you very much. And then next, our initiator, Dr. George Cook, is going to present the Sri Lankan perspective regarding the arrival of Venerable Upali, Sri Lanka.
Thank you very much, Venerable Dr. Panyaloka, Venerable Nanasiha Thera, Dr. Paitun, Professor Sena Naika, Thayud, and all of our participants who are joining us from Sri Lanka, from Thailand, from London, from many of the places. Thank you very much for your presence here on a Saturday afternoon. We are very happy on behalf of the Avalok Initiative to be partnering with the Servants of the Buddha organization, which I know meets every Saturday. It is a very old organization in this country, and it is an honor for us to be able to collaborate on this initiative. And this is something that we've been trying to do for some time, and we've finally seen it into fruition, where we look at the Venerable Upali Maha Thero because of the role that he played. When we talk about Buddhist diplomacy, he is a very significant character whom we refer to. We have, as Dr. Paitun very rightly said, limited information, but we should try to find out as much of that limited information that is available already. So the more we do research, the more we dig deep into these areas. This is where research and reflection become so very important, and that is what we are trying to achieve today. In terms of looking at the Sri Lankan perspective, Venerable Nanasiha Thero has given us the historical perspective. Dr. Paitun has talked to us about the Thai perspective and who Venerable Upali Maha Thero was, to give us an identification of the individual, the contribution that he made. I would like to take a few minutes now to look at the religious revival and the Sri Lankan perspective and what exactly was transpiring at that time, given the richness of history, richness of literature that we have available at this particular juncture. So the most important day, the significant day that we talk about is the 20th of July, 1753. So this is where, when we talk about Upasampada, we are now 271 years after this very historic moment, this historic event that took place in this country. By the 1700s, Venerable Nanasiha Thera has explained this, but just to give you the background, at this particular stage, an absence of Buddhist monks who had obtained Upasampada. We only had Samanera monks who were present in the country. We had seen Sri Vijayarajasinha, who had made an attempt in order to invite clergy, who had made an attempt to revive. And then after that, we have the presence of Kirtisi Rajasimha, also referred to as Kirtisi Rajasinha. We keep using these interchangeably. Historians have either referred to them as SIMHA, SINHA, SINGHA. The names have been used. And of course, a very important king on the other side of the Bay of Bengal in Siam was King Somdat Frechau Barmakotte. So when it came to monarchs, when it came to their contribution, we see them playing a very critical role. Just some images for you. Dr. Paitun showed us the image on the right-hand side. This is said to be a painting of King Kirtisi Rajasimha presenting the ornate fan to the Venerable Valivita Satnankara Thera, who goes on to become the Sangaraja, the last Lord Sangaraja that we talk about in the Ceylon context. And you also have a statue on the left-hand side. These statues are said to be found at the Kalani Raja Mahaviharaya, at the Malvatta Viharaya, denoting the king. And this is where, when we have opportunities of visiting temples or visiting museums or archives, when we see statues, sometimes we don't realize. We think there are a whole lot of statues and we look at them all in one go. But this is where reflection on each one, who they are, what they did, what contribution they made, because a statue is not erected for everyone. It is only a few people who have statues erected for them. So it's very important to try to understand who they were and the role they played in ancient times. The delegation that was sent from Sri Lanka comprised of members of the nobility belonging to the Kandyan kingdom. The designations that they had are on the screen right now. Pattapola Atapatwe Mohottala, Ellepola Mohottala, Iriagamarala, Aitaliadarala, and Wilbagedrarala. Now, they played a very significant role, not only in terms of their contribution to the hierarchy within the Kandyan kingdom, but also in the delegation that was being sent out there. Now, we might wonder how come, as we have been told, Sarnankara Thera was the one who was very keen to see a revival. He was a Samanera at the time as well. He had not received higher ordination and was very keen to see a bigger role being played for the Buddhist clergy. But he was not allowed to go. He wanted to undertake the mission. He wanted to go to Siam. He wanted to be the one who was sent. But P.E.E. Fernando, in his writing, says he was making an attempt. However, the king was not prepared to permit him to leave the country and ordered instead his trusted officers to undertake the journey to Siam to request the king of Siam for services of some competent monks at that end. And in terms of the delegation, we talk about an ambassadorial delegation that was also dispatched thereafter. Pinnapatha, Angamana Mohottala, Dodamvela, Neelavature Rala, and Usgiriye Rala. They held various titles in the Kandyan kingdom at this particular juncture. Now, the journey to Siam takes them out of Sirivardhanapura. Dr. Paitun also referred to a different version of this term, how we talk about the Dutch having control over the maritime provinces. And this was where, in 1760, there is a lot of animosity, anxiety between the king and the Dutch. But at this particular point, there was a lot of engagement taking place between the two. There is important reflection also in terms of a name that we use to refer to people who were sent as chief emissaries to the Dutch. Anyhow, they left on a Dutch ship. They left for Siam. The journey had taken them to Bangkok, to various temples in those regions. They were first presented to the sub-king, finally to the king. Thereafter, they were also taken to another temple that was found at that point before they called on the Sangaraja of Siam, who was the one who finally allocated or ordained that Venerable Upali Thera would undertake the visit. Now, if we look at the writings, a lot of them wrote, a lot of them contributed literature. In their writings, Aitaliadarala describes the splendor of the palace that they experienced when they went to Siam. He says, on the other side of the great throne were arranged figures of bears, lions, rakshas, Dugadians, nagas, and Barabayakshas, two of each adorned with gold. In their midst rose the throne, which appeared about 10 cubits high. Round it were fired golden sesam, while marvelous golden embroideries were hung around. The walls themselves were gilt, and the finials above the dais were of gold. Here we were brought before the king and presented the royal letter and presents, after which we were graciously permitted to visit the interior of the palace. The delegation had also visited the temple of Vatprutiswan and the Palankara Arama Vihara, where they called on the Sangaraja of Siam. Aithalya Rala notes even further, where he says, behind a curtain, curiously embroidered with gold, was a throne on which the Sangaraja himself was seated. His face was screened by a fan of golden-hued bird's plumes, which he held in his right hand. We were led in at his command to make our obeisance to him and to acquire merit. After we had made suitable offerings to him, we were served with betel and erica nut, and were graciously praised by him for the faithful devotion to the triple gem which had brought us on this toilsome but blessed voyage across the dangerous sea. He was also pleased to say that priests would be sent to accompany us back to Lanka. The delegation, we know Upali Mahatero was the senior most delegate of that delegation. We also talk about Arya Muni Mahanayaka Thero, Anu Mahatero, who was the Anu Mahatero, or Anunayaka as we would refer to him today. The Mahateros who had to take part in the ordination ceremony, some of the Mahateros who also accompanied have been listed on the screen. Vilbagedara Muhandiram Rala, who wrote a letter noted about an incident that took place thereafter. Whilst they were hoping to leave, a lot of arrangements had been made for their departure. However, weather intervened. Dr. Paitun very interestingly showed us the map of how they had to go around Indonesia today. When we talk about the map today, and if you look at their journey, it was an extremely long one that they were undertaking at that stage. So when that attempt had failed, there were also various developments in Siam at the time, with the death of the sub-king taking place. His Majesty the King of Siam had graciously bidden them, when they were taken before him, not to be disheartened at their mischance. The priests destined for Lanka, the presents, and the 3 Siamese ambassadors would start again in the month of Wak from the district of Mirigia and reach Lanka this year itself. The ambassadors who were waiting at Malacca should accordingly be directed to start for home. So the Dutch ship at the time came back, the message was conveyed, but then further attempts were made in order to undertake this voyage. Now, in order to convince the king, Vilbagedara Muhandiram uses a very interesting argument to convince the king of Siam once again. And he says, I too am in great distress at the misfortunes that have occurred. But the uncertainty of the future, grief, and death are no new thing in our world of sorrow. Therefore, should you hasten to fructify your desire to spread knowledge on the one thing that is certain, the preaching of the Lord. So this is where he wanted to use Buddhist principles in order to convince the king that the journey should be undertaken. Finally, the journey was undertaken. They do arrive at Trincomalee. They are taken to various places. P.E. Piris writes about these places. Some of them we might understand the terms to have changed. Gantale, for example, could be a reference to Kantale. And they journeyed up to Gonapola. The king was at Bodhimalua to receive the Siamese delegation. And thereafter, we have the ordination taking place on the evening of the 2nd day of the solar month, Hataka, being Friday the 13th day of the lunar month of the Malvata Vihara. Upali Mahatero admitted one of the Samaneras who had accompanied him from Siam into the Upasampada. So the first ordination that was done after he arrived was of one of his own monks who had arrived from Siam with him. Thereafter, on Saturday, the full moon day of the month of Asala, in the presence of the king, Upali Mahatero, Arya Muni Mahatero, and the other members of the Sangha admitted some of the most senior Samaneras who were here at the time. Kobe Kadwe Unnanse, Velivita Sarnankara Unnanse, Hulangamwe Unnanse, Bambaradeni Unnanse, and Tibbatuave Siddhartha Buddharakita Unnanse. Now, they were admitted at this particular stage into the monkhood, and they received higher ordination. And Blackburn talks about 3 embassies that arrived in Lanka from Siam. The first was in 1753. That's the one that we are referring to in terms of Upali Mahatero, who performed the Upasampada. We also have the second one that comes in 1756 where there is a further attempt being made in order to support, in order to take forward the action that was being taken at the time. The third embassy arrived in 1759 and was drawn into a plot that took place later on against the king. That was in 1760. So in 2003, this commemorative coin was issued to mark the 250th anniversary of the visit of Upali Maha Thero to this country. And significant development, and I know Venerable Nanasiya is going to delve into the impact of this visit. And just to add that, Venerable Sir, in terms of the introduction there, it is said that in October of 1753, a special exposition of the sacred tooth relic was held for the Thai monks and envoys who had arrived. And there was also a special perhara that was arranged where it began, Upali Maha Thero was very concerned about the presence or the non-presence of the tooth relic in the perahara. And it had been felt that in the Anuradhapura period, in earlier times, the tooth relic had been present, but for security reasons, it had not been taken out thereafter. But Upali Maha Thero had said, you need to have the sacred tooth relic in the perahara, because that is, after all, the most important aspect of it. And this is where they say that King Kirtisi Rajasinghe ordered that in future, gods and men should follow the Buddha in the procession, resulting in the sacred tooth relic being honored. So with that, Venerable Vadnagala Thera, I would like to end my part of the presentation, and thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. George Cook. Because the time factor, I think I must turn again to Venerable Nyansiha Thero to discuss about the impact of the Upali Thero's visit and impact upon the Sri Lankan Sangha.
Thank you very much. So it was an interesting discussion so far.
Yes,
one thing that whenever Upali was a royal emissary, so the important thing, the sources, my sources are the Mahavans itself is a big source on this, and also the Jinakalamali that's written in Thailand, and that also gives quite a, it's a long, much information regarding the Sinhala monks. The Mahavan's account, it's mentioned that the Venerable Upali passed away after 3 years. You know, after 3 years, that was in, he passed away. And there was a hive of activities during this period. And according to the account of the Mahavansa, during that 3 years, he visited many parts of Sri Lanka, but itself, he says there were 700 received higher ordination, and over 3,000 became ordained as Samaneras. So there was a hive of activity. You can imagine the embassy has come, where Upali has come, and then all were waiting, and as mentioned by Dr. Cook, the Venerable Sardankar Thera and others who were so keen. So there was hive of activity, and there we have so 700 to receive a high ordination, and as recorded, and 3,000 Samaneras. This continued with the second mission was mentioned here. That was in 1756 by Maha Thera, Visuddhacharya Maha Thera, and Varanyana Muni Maha Thera. So the point is, it's just not one visit. It's the start with Venerable Upali, and then there were other visits, as I mentioned. There was between Thailand and Sri Lanka. And the important fact is that we had the King Kirtisi Rajasinghe was the ruler for 35 years, and that's important. You know, in his third year, when Upali came, and for the long period, he really has helped in the establishment of the Upasampada in this country. The personality of the most venerable Asarana Sarananka Sangaraj Thera in this effort is also extremely important. You know, he was the key figure in this whole episode, and he was made the first Sangaraja in Sri Lanka. And along with that, we have the founding of the Siyamopali Nikaya, And that's important because for the continuation of the work of the Sinhala Sangha tradition that was brought back to Sri Lanka by Venerable Upali and the group, we had the Siyama Upali Nikaya that was what was founded to continue this particular work. And also we should mention that there is the continued support of the Thai royalty and the Thai prince getting ordained at Dipaduttarami at Kotayana. That was Thai who became a monk. And also the establishment of the prestigious Syamaraj Prize at Vidyodaya. You know, the thing is, the link between Thailand and Sri Lanka continued after that. From the long-term perspective, I consider this particular event extremely important because after the Portuguese, we had the British period. In 1850, 1796, the Portuguese, you know, the Dutch left, and the Dutch were ousted from Sri Lanka, and then the maritime area was taken over by the British. And in 1815, the long tradition we started with, say, King Vijaya, the tradition of kings, monarchies, everything, it ended in 1815. So it's a very important aspect in this context, and we know that particular century, the 19th century, the sort of the policy of the British. One policy was divide and rule, divide tempora, you know, divide and rule. That's one policy. The second was, you know, the laissez-faire policy, where the missionaries were allowed to take control of education and all those things. So the thing is, in that context, as you know, till says Henry Steele Olcott came and started later the Buddhist the schools of Ananda, Nalanda, all those things. No, that was period. But because of Venerable Upalis and the Siamese tradition, we have the Pirivenas coming up. We have and the education and all those aspects came up. So if not for that, if you can just imagine, if we did not have Venerable Upali Theras come in here, or with the close links between Thailand and Sri Lanka, and the continuity of the systems, of the friendly relationship with the two countries, and if there was no Upasampradaya, the Siamese, the Nikaya, that Siamese Nikaya that came up, you know, what could have been the position in Sri Lanka? You know, you can just imagine, because, you know, we saw before that, before the coming of the plight of Buddhism, the Sasana. So the whole impact I see from a long term, or from the telescopic point of view, you know, or later on, you know, that event of Kirti Raj Singh, of Venerable Upali's coming, and the close relationship we had, and starting the Samaneras and starting the Bhikkhu education and everything, we see the effect of that in the 19th century, when the state did not support. The state was in a different, they are called Cameron reforms and all those things. They were thinking of ruling the country with English and everything. But we had the tradition, the Pirivena tradition, all those established, and that's the whole long-term impact, yeah, because of that. So I think those are some of the factors assisting the firm establishment and impact. I would just summarize it in these a few words, so that there will be time for the discussion.
Thank you very much, Venerable Sir. So I think with this lot of insights from the three speakers, let's go for the session of question and answers. So now it is for the audience to come up with questions. We have 15 minutes for question and answer session.
Greetings, everybody. I would like to ask Dr. Paitun a bit more on to elaborate a bit more on the ranks of the Thai monastics and how Venerable Upali play a role into it. I saw this earlier with more names and titles.
Then let me share the slide. Sorry. One minute. Let me share the screen so that I can I share the screen?
Yes.
Yeah, 1 minute. Oh yes, yes. Okay. According to the current monastic ranks in Thailand, the rank of Upali may fall in this class because only senior monks from the fourth rank will be elevated to the rank of Upali in the third class. And so right now in Thailand, there is no monk in the rank and title of Upali in Thailand. This rank and title is still vacant at this moment. And in the Ayutthaya period, the rank of Upali might be in this third class or in the seventh class, but no one knows for sure. Thank you very much.
Dr. Paitun,
Yes.
are those classes mostly concerned with the Vinaya?
These classes are concerned with monastic administration in Thailand, both in Ayutthaya period and in Bangkok period or at the current time. And usually the rank and title will be bestowed on monks who are considered to be fit for the monastic administration and to be the example in society. It's not concerned with Vinaya. Thank you.
Yes. There's another question from Anoja Vijaysekhar.
Yeah, before I go on to my question, I would like to make a comment. And the comment is that as a Sri Lankan and as a Buddhist, I think we owe a huge debt of gratitude to our king, Kirti Sri Rajasinghe, who played a huge role in this whole exercise, because had it not been for the patronage of the king of Sri Lanka, of Kandy at that time, who was able to send this mission and then get the support of the king of Thailand, none of these things would have happened. So I think we in Sri Lanka owe a huge debt of gratitude to King Kirti Sri Rajasinghe, and I think that aspect is not very much known in this country. We know about Sri Sarnankara Thero and his role in all of this, but the role played by the king, I think, was even greater, because had it not been for royal patronage, none of these things would have happened. So that's just a comment from my side. And I don't know whether anybody disagrees with that, but I think under monarchy, royal patronage is the most important aspect for anything to succeed. So the second thing is that I'd just like to ask a question from our Thai experts who are on the panel today. Whether Upali was considered to be a person who was well versed with the Vinaya, and of course that was Upali during the time of the Buddha. And I dare say that Upali, the emissary who came from Thailand, was also well versed in the Vinaya. Now I want to know whether in Thailand today, whether there is any procedure. Now you have all these ranks of monks found in Thailand, whether you have any procedure through which monks who don't follow the Vinaya have to be, I don't know, whether there's any procedure by which monks that do not follow the Vinaya are dealt with. Because I think right now in Sri Lanka, there is a problem like that, which is of great concern to the lay people of this country.
So could you repeat the questions again, ma'am?
Yeah, I want to know whether in Thailand, where you have these different categories of monks and you have a hierarchy of administrative, now what you said is that you have these administrative monks that are put into different categories. You have, I think, 10 different categories with the head being the Sangha Raja. And whether in that system that you have in Thailand, whether there is any mechanism through which Vinaya practices of the monks are monitored, and whether actions are taken with regard to the observance of the Vinaya rules among the hundreds and thousands of monks that exist both in Thailand.
So thank you very much for your question. The answer is that in Thailand, yes, there is a monastic mechanism to manage or to administer the Vinaya in the Sangha community. Usually, there is a like a monk, like a policeman, even though these policemen are not empowered to make an arrest, but they are equipped with some kind of power to police the monk's behavior. And if they see any monks behave not properly, then they will warn them, or they may disrobe them if they behave very badly. Then the policeman or the administrative monks who in the position like the district magistrate, but the monastic district magistrate monk have to take a discipline action against any monks who violate Vinaya. In some cases, the administrator may warn, may admonish, and in some cases, they even disrobe the monks who violate the Vinaya. Thank you very much.
you very much.
Dr.
I think this
George,
if you don't mind, can I make a comment, please?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so this is a great eye-opener for us in Sri Lanka, because to my knowledge, and this I have discussed with many monks in Sri Lanka, to my knowledge, there is no such mechanism at all in Sri Lanka. And you may be surprised to know that currently there is a monk serving a prison sentence in this country, who is very famous, and I mean his name is mentioned in the newspapers. I'm sure you may have seen that. So it is something that is of utmost concern to the Buddhists of Sri Lanka, and not only the Buddhists of Sri Lanka, but also the well-wishers of the Buddhist practices in Sri Lanka, because we have a lot of foreign people who have come to Sri Lanka and who have become monks and so on, and also from other countries, people are monitoring what's happening with regard to the Buddha Sasana in Sri Lanka, because we have a very long history, of course. And as you mentioned in your presentation, Buddhism first went to Thailand from Sri Lanka. So, but unfortunately, this very good practice you seem to have in Thailand, we do not have in Sri Lanka. And I would like to be a bit, I hope I'm not out of place here, making a suggestion that perhaps there should be another mission from Thailand to Sri Lanka to establish a system whereby Vinaya rules, which are part and parcel of the Upasampada, which was established by Venerable Upali, is actually observed.
thank you, ma'am. Next question I saw from Nadir. I think this question should be to Dr. George regarding the language which was used in these exchanges during that 18th century.
Thank you.
Between
Thank
Thailand.
you.
Is it Pali or English, or which was the language?
Correct.
Pali was Franca during that time.
Pali
So
was
all-
used, yeah.
Yes, all the correspondence was in Pali.
Maybe one more question.
Yes,
This is where we have.
good afternoon.
Yes.
I'm Dr. Dharinraj Singh. I'm an anthropologist. And thank you very much to all of you for your presentations, which were fascinating. I have a couple of questions. One about the prior engagements between, Sri Lanka. We know that the Theravada Buddhism traveled from Sri Lanka along the maritime Silk Route to Thailand, but also Cambodia and all the sort of currently Theravada countries. So how were how were those exchanges actually accomplished? What were the sort of routes of travel? If somebody has, I'd be interested to know. So before the sort of, European incursions into the Indian Ocean, you have a long history of exchanges between South and Southeast Asia, Buddhist along the Theravada, of the Theravada communities along the maritime Silk Route, as it were. So it would be really interesting to look at that period. And then to come again, as Anuja also asked this question about the current period, we have a lot of issues around all the religions, and we talk about the weaponization of religion at this stage, many of us anthropologists, as it were. And there is this book by a well-known Yale University historian called Cold War Monks, Buddhism and America's Secret Strategy, which focuses on the use of religions, particularly Buddhism and Islam, to fight colonial decolonization and national liberation movements in the period of decolonization. And I'm wondering if anybody is familiar with this book, and because again we have this kind of divide and rule, a lot of conflicts along religious lines, intra-religious as well as inter-religious conflicts percolating at this time. And it seems we're back in the Cold War And as we know, there's a conflict between the West and China and all of that. And so, and religion is again involved in this. So I'd like to know if anyone is familiar with, Cold War Monks. It's published by Yale University Press. And it's a very fascinating story of how in Thailand, Buddhism was being, as it were, weaponized in order to break any socialist or communist or liberation movements. And though Thailand had never been colonized. Anyway, I'll stop there.
Because of
Thank
the
you.
time factor, I think
Yeah, thanks.
the second question is not addressed here because this is out of we can address it in a later another session.
Okay.
We go for
Right.
the first question. Either Dr. George or Paitun, Dr. Paitun, I think they can answer the first question. I would say that maritime routes before the Westerners came to Asia, how the Theravada countries had exchanges in the sea.
Yes.
So, Dr. Paitun or Dr. George?
Just to remind that
maybe Dr. George will be better.
During the time of Parakram Bahu I, we had our own ships, and there was missions that came from Sri Lanka, and that is very popular. That was there. So the shipping was there. The maritime connections were there.
Mm-hmm. And there were also other groups, I suppose, from India who were traveling that route, the Maritime Silk Route, because it was a trade route, and then also, there was exchanges amongst the countries, I guess.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I think it's time to conclude. Dr. George, is it now? I think even only 10 minutes left.
Yeah.
Only 10 minutes left. It's a wonderful session. So it's for concluding remarks. It is to be carried out by myself. I feel it's really fascinating and really enlightening session. First of all, I am thankful to Dr. George as well as Professor Manori Senanaike for cooperating with me, and also the servants of the Buddha organization. Actually, this is I feel that reflecting about the role of Venerable Upali is a worthwhile topic for the reason that most of us, I think, have not reflected upon the role that Venerable Upali played in the Sri Lankan Buddhism. I think we have to reflect about his role. This is doing justice. This is doing justice to his historical role. So the three speakers came up with invaluable insights. First, I think Venerable Nyansi, what I learned from him is that he came up with three major points. Most important thing is that Venerable Upali brought the Sri Lankan Upasampada tradition back to Sri Lanka. I think this is what happened throughout the Buddhist history. Time to time, Sri Lanka and other Buddhist countries had exchanges regarding the Upasampada. In this case, in the history, what we can see, Sri Lanka had been the key place where other Buddhist countries got Buddhist literature as well as Upasampada. It is the same I think, in Myanmar, Kalyani Sima Upasampada. So it is wonderful to learn from Thailand also that the Thai Upasampada, Siamese Upasampada, is also again, how to say, the returning to Sri Lanka from our own Upasampada back to our country. So that's a very important insight to learn from this discussion. And also, Dr. Paitun revealed that Pra Upali is not personal name. It's a position, monastic hierarchy has that position. So what came into my mind, whether it is related more than meditation, is it a Vinay position, as I think one question came about. Like in the first council, there was Upali Maha Thero. So because that Upasampada is highly a matter of Vinaya, was it a Vinaya position? That is question actually we have to investigate further in future, perhaps. Apart from the established knowledge that this is the administrative position in the Thai monastic tradition, was it a kind of Vinaya position regarding the expertise in Vinaya given to the Venerable Upali? And also the another important thing that George Cook wrote a lot of things about how this ambassadorial mission acted and their records, how they are important, and also the role of Kirti Sri Rajasinghe. I think finally my conclusion is that actually when we appreciate the entire event of arrival of Upali and enthusiasm of Venerable the Sangaraja Saranankara and the role of the king, Kirti Sri Rajasinghe played. I think all these three players are equally important. That is my understanding. And especially the role that Saranankara Sangaraja played was also very important for the reason that he was preparing the ground in Sri Lanka to revive the education in Sri Lanka. He was working hard to revive the Buddhist education, Pirivana education in Sri Lanka. And what Upali Thero did was, I think he provided kind of strong foundation, Vinaya foundation, and also meditational foundation for Sri Lankan Buddhism. But the basis was provided by Venerable Saranankara in Sri Lanka. So because of this soil that Saranankara was preparing, that flourished. So, and also, of course, the king's patronage is unforgettable. And even and also, finally, as a tribute to Venerable Upali, I think this reminds me when Dr. George invited me. The thing that came into my mind was, I think Venerable Upali is a kind of celebrity for me in the sense that we are not talking this much about only Venerable Mahinda's arrival in Sri Lanka. We are talking this revival and introduction of Buddhism to Sri Lanka. After that, I think the arrival of Upali is very important in revival of Sri Lanka. With this remark, I conclude my statements. Thank you. Now, Dr. George Cook for the delivering word of thanks.
Thank you very much, Venerable Sir. So we have come to the conclusion of a webinar that has long been in the planning. I would like to first say a special word of thanks to Venerable Nanasiha Thero, the patron of the servants of the Buddha, for joining us, for his research, for his findings, for sharing his knowledge, for being present with us today. Thank you so much, Venerable Sir, for the time you have given us today. To Venerable Varinagala Panyaloka, thank you so much for accepting our invitation to moderate. You have always accepted our invitations for numerous activities. Given the fact that we have collaborated on a lot of activities for now, it's been more than 10 years. I first got to know Venerable Varinagala Thera when we used to organize Paris in Paris. We used to organize Vesak celebrations at the UN over there, at the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO. And he played a huge role in supporting all the efforts that were being undertaken to commemorate the international observance of Vesak. Thank you very much, Venerable Sir, for moderating, for accepting the invitation, for being with us right throughout. Thank you so much. Thank you to Dr. Paitun. Thank you for taking time out. I know you are very busy. I know you have a lot of other commitments. We are very fortunate to have been able to include you in our program. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation and gracing us with your presence, with your findings, with your research. Everybody should take note. Dr. Paitun prepared his presentation a long time ago, and he had already emailed it to me about a week and a half ago in preparation for the webinar, and that showed the amount of hard work he put into preparing even for today. So thank you very much, Dr. Paitun, for all the support you gave us today. Tayud, thank you. I got in touch with Tayud, and he was the one who put me in touch with Dr. Paitun. So thank you, Tayud, very much. They are both with the Thailand Foundation. Thank you so much. I must also remember another Thai scholar from the Chiang Mai University. It was he who put me in contact with Thayud and the Thailand Foundation. Dr. Narut Charan Sri from the Chiang Mai University, who I had the opportunity of meeting on the sidelines of another conference, and he had heard about the research that was being done. And he had shared this information with Thailand Foundation, and Thayud got in touch with me, and we were able to see today happening. And hopefully this is the first of many forms of collaboration between Sri Lanka and Thailand in terms of looking at various forms of nice diplomacy or our engagement between our two countries. So thank you very much to Dr. Paitun, to Tayud, and to Dr. Narut as well. A person who needs no introduction to this group, a live wire of this group, especially the servants of the Buddha, the president of the grouping, Professor Manori Senanayaka. Thank you so much for accepting my proposal to go ahead with doing this, for being so enthusiastic about making sure that it happened. We have had several weeks in the planning of this, and finally we have seen it happening. So thank you very much, Professor, for all your hard work and the support that you have given to make this possible in terms of this collaboration with the Dialogue Initiative. And to everyone who has joined us today, we have participants globally, which is wonderful, who have come together, who come to try to understand that much further, to look at research and to reflect upon research. That is what we try to do through this webinar, where we want to create awareness about what is happening, what has happened, what is happening, what could happen, and to engage in dialogue, which is exactly what we did today for the last 1.5 hours. So thank you to each and every one of you for taking time to join us and be a part of this effort on the part of the servants of the Buddha and the Dialogue Initiative. So thank you once again, and have a good evening. And hopefully we will have several more collaborations in the future, and we look forward to all of your participation. Thank you so much.
Sadhu.
Okay.
Sadhu.
And let us hope that next time, or look at how the Bhikkhuni Sasana went from Sri Lanka to China and Taiwan, and then came back. That on the same, So these things do seem to be happening. Very valuable roots and connections, or threads, as George would say, and threads.